Organizations are increasingly going digital, with multiple applications being used, huge amounts of data getting generated, and a host of employees accessing the entire IT infrastructure. With this comes the challenges of cyber threats. We help organizations in their end-to-end cybersecurity journey, providing IT services and solutions around the space.
Cybersecurity technologies like identity management, access management, endpoint security, security information and event management, security automation, orchestration and response, user and entity behavior analytics, besides governance and compliance.
So come, let's live a cybersecurity journey together.
Good afternoon. I think I'm the penultimate guy who is between the lunch break, and I won't take much of a time. So since morning there has been an excellent sessions that have been going on. A lot of panel discussions happened, and a lot of technologies that we heard of, concepts that we heard of, and what I could fathom from all those discussions is we are actually trying to secure something which is always evolving, okay? And that's the biggest challenge probably. So the way we look at things today probably needs a little bit of modification when we start proceeding and look out for our future. So we believe that cybersecurity is a living process, okay? And this living process is all about improving our own weaknesses, because we are fighting an enemy which is very organized. You know, there are countries which sponsors cyber terrorists, okay? And these countries do have buildings after buildings where they host hackers, okay? And we are trying to fight them. So and that's the reason we have this concept of saying that it's a living process. So if I go and define a process, it always talks about certain very inherent things, which is we have to be very disciplined. We have to do things day in, day out, just like a military regiment, okay? And that's where we make mistakes, and that's where 80% of breaches happens, okay? We say that human error causes maximum amount of breaches. So I am actually trying to galvanize whatever we have learned from morning till now. And what I could see is we need to be actually put attention to all the details which are happening around us. We need to have zero complacency. Some of our fellow panelists said out here, spoke that, you know, there are products, there are solutions, everything is fine. But if you cannot be complacent for a single day, because the guys that you are trying to fight probably are way too superior than whoever we are. And we also need to have a proactive communication. I heard product talking to security, and there are concepts like a DevOps, which is development and operations. You have concepts like DevSecOps, where we talk about development, security, and IT operations. So it cannot be in silos. It has to happen together. So there has to be a proactive communications between all the business units as well as the internal IT team to come up with a very comprehensive IT security policy for an organization to become future-proof and stay secure. Before we proceed, you know, what are we trying to secure? People have talked about data, isn't it? People have talked about third-party applications, supply chain, okay? There are numerous amount of things. So, is there a framework which actually tries to define that? I mean, are you about, any one of you, I want couple of participants. Do you aware of a framework which is very commonly used these days to define security and to become future-proof? Anyone? NIST, perfectly fine. So what are the pillars around that NIST? If somebody can tell us, that would be great. Anybody can attempt? So it is identification, protection, detection, response, and recover. Most of the time we try and forget. We are concerned about the perimeters. We don't look at internally and identify all the assets that we have. And we also forget that the basis of a zero trust network starts with identity and access. Okay? So a soul searching, for enterprise of any kind, maybe an SMB or a large enterprise, has to happen not only with the directory services, which a lot of us actually see or believe that we have an identity management solution in place. Okay? So let's start and see what are the kind of losses. People have talked about losses. The loss figure is $6 trillion. That's an annual estimated loss figure. 80%, that's again a number. 80% of global organizations suffered cyber attacks in 2021. So which brings us back to the fact that we cannot be complacent. And what are the impacts? Financial loss, your reputational loss, your loss of life. When it comes to cyber attacks happening, you have heard of Ukraine-Russia war. A lot of things started with a cyber attack, okay, where your national security is compromised. And the biggest problem, probably all of you should, whether you agree to it or not, we have figured out there is no single product or solution which actually addresses all the cybersecurity needs, which is the basic fundamental problem. So you need solutions with best possible technology addressing a problem in an integrated way. So let's look at what are the assets that we are trying to secure. So it's people, your on-prem IT infrastructure, your in-house applications, your network, your edge and IoT devices, cloud and third-party applications. Did I miss anything? If I miss anything, probably I will try and incorporate next time when I start talking about fundamental facets or tenets of cybersecurity. Let's look at the solutions that we need. So I talked about the 5 pillars, which is identify, I talked about protect, I talked about detect, I talked about respond and recover. So when we are looking at identification, what are we looking at? We are looking at an identity management solution. We are looking at an access management solution. And very important, a lot of us miss out. Are we looking at artificial intelligence in our IT operations management, which is very, very critical when we look at cybersecurity? Because without data and processes being properly managed and governed, and your service decks properly managed, all your efforts regarding cybersecurity is going to go in vain. So having an artificially intelligent IT operations management is a very important factor when we are considering to secure ourselves and become future ready. Once we do that, once we know that yes, we have an identity access management in place, we look at protection, okay? So protections can be your endpoint protections, or nowadays a lot of people are talking about EDRs and XDRs, etc. Your application security as well as your data security. Those two are absolutely set of different things. So we need to have a secure application. Even if the application does not go through a DevSecOps cycle for that matter, you have a lot of legacy applications, how can you secure your application? That needs to be really looked after. You also need to look after your third-party application as well as your supply chain management applications that you are trying to use, okay? Do they go through those cycles or not? Because your liability to your customer does not take cognizance of the liability of your supply chain, okay? Then when we go to detection, you have a SIEM solution where you do a lot of logging, log monitoring. Then you have a very important terminology that a lot of people use, which is SOAR, which is Security Orchestration, Automation, and Response, okay? The SOAR capability is basically where AI kicks in and you start responding to the set of attacks or unruly behaviors that you are getting inside the systems across your networks. And to go deep dive, to look at your own internal people, how they are using it. For that matter, if say for example, if I am an HR guy and if I suddenly start downloading a lot of HR data, I do have an access to the HR data bank, being an HR employee. But if I start downloading more, what happens? That's an unruly behavior. Do we have something which talks about behavioral analytics, which can be of user as well as entities? Because today, as the sessions unfolded, we heard that the attacks can be happening through an AI engine, okay? So you have to have entity behavioral analytics as well coming up. And then how do you respond and recover? Is exactly where you do your BCP planning, okay? Now all this, can it be done through a single product? At least I have not heard of, I am not enlightened enough to hear a product which does all, okay? So what do we need? We need to integrate the best-in-class solutions which fits your industry requirement. Again, I've been very specific in using that word industry requirement. Say a manufacturing has a different requirement because of the compliance and the governance that the manufacturing industry put across. A BFSI will have a different set of requirements, isn't it? So you need a solution which is best in class for your industry, and that should be integrated with your existing set of applications to give you security. But that's not end all. Still you will get attacked. And that's exactly where your response or BCP planning comes into the picture. So what are the services if you have not done anything? Okay, I guess most of you people have done a lot of things. You need a transformation and integration services which actually spans across on-prem as well as cloud. A lot of us has hybrid infrastructure, okay? We have multi-cloud strategy, we have on-prem strategy. So a transformation and an integration services which spans across on-prem as well as cloud. And you need to have a continuous audit, maintenance, and an on-demand training of your internal people. Because the start of the session, it started with the fact that 80% of the attacks happens because of users making mistakes. So let's go back to the basics. So we at Prosociety basically deals with this, where we try and give you solutions around identification, protection, detection, response, recovery from cyber attacks. So we are pre as well as post. So we do the integration. We help you formulate your own strategy, okay? And we also help you to recover if there is an attack. That's exactly what we do. And so our team consists of, me and my 3 co-founders are there. And that's we are a startup again. We are 2 years, 3 months old in the system. And I'm here today and we have a few marquee customers which uses our solutions as well as services across. In this 2.5 years where we are present, we have been asked to do certain kind of value addition to their already existing system. So that's about it from our side. We are more non-product specific, more of a products which spans across. So there can be different kind of solutions which spans across different technologies. So we are more product agnostic in nature, and that's the services that we provide. Any questions? Yep.
Hi, very insightful, session. Any learnings from COVID-19, pre and post?
Okay. Learnings from pre and post is cyber attacks has quadrupled. Losses which used to be $1 trillion has become $8 trillion, and number of attackers, I'm not saying attacks, they have multiplied because now you can take money anonymously, okay? So a lot of people have taken this as a profession, so you are more at threats against a very organized community. That's the learning that I have had. Today, if you see the number of attacks, since I can talk about a figure from January 2022 to June 2022, we had almost 8 million cyber attacks in India alone. Last year was 11.3 across the year, and this year is almost 8 million still now. The year is not over. We have another 1.5 months. Half yearly was 8 million. I don't know where it's going to end. So my only learning is be disciplined, look internally where you are and where you need to go. Have a map in mind. That's only going to help. And the organization needs to decide. You alone cannot decide, the business has to decide. So take everybody along and don't work in silos.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any more time. We have a stall there, so we can interact if you want to. Rest up to you. Thank you very much.